This is SoulCharge, the podcast for women leaders to take the highest level of ownership of their power to create results now. I'm your host, Stacy B. Let's dive in. Hello, podcast listeners. Welcome back to another SoulCharge episode. Today, we are talking about the secret. The secret, the one thing that is lurking in the shadows and blocking you from the growth in your career, in your relationships, and truly in every area of life. And that hidden thing is projections, baby. And it is something that shows up so often for us as women leaders. And in this episode today, we are going to dive into the ways it shows up, why it's showing up, and how to stop it for good. Because the truth of the matter is that you can only grow to the extent that your projections are running the show, baby. You can only grow to the extent that your projections are running the show. So let's dive in. So after multiple clients brought this to calls this week and last, I knew that it was important to bring this to you all, podcast listeners, because if women leaders are dealing with this, I know that you are too. And this topic around projections is such a fascinating one because we don't often realize that we are projecting, right? We go through our lives, we deal with our teams, our clients, situations throughout the day-to-day life that we're all living and leading. And the truth is that we find ourselves frustrated, or we find ourselves in situations where things aren't clicking, or things are just seeming a lot harder than they need to be. And that is truly the first sign that your projections are leading the way instead of your true power and your true self. And so let's first talk about projections and what is a projection anyway, and why is it showing up for us, especially as leaders? Projections, as I'm referring to them here, is all about the parts of yourself that you either are not comfortable with or have disregarded over time. And people in the world, whether it's your team, your family, people that you know, like, and trust, will often show up and serve you up triggers in the things that you struggle with, or the parts of you that you haven't really befriended or accepted. And so what can happen in the basic nature of a projection is the thoughts of yourself, the way you perceive yourself, oftentimes can be projected, and also be projected in a distorted way. So projections show up differently, and that's why they're so sneaky. Projections are so sneaky and so limiting, because they're truly the most difficult to catch. Part of the work at SoulCharge, I just wanted to say this as a reminder of why I'm bringing these topics to you. It's different than manifestation topics, or it's different than these one-time outcome tools that are out there. What I am so passionate about teaching you is, how do you embody your true power? How do you feel comfortable with your true power? How do you unleash your true power so that you can be unbridled in the world, so that you can be all of you? Because when you're all of you, manifestation is a byproduct of it. Calling in your dreams, your desires, your goals is a byproduct of you being in full power, in full resonance, and fully aligned with your truth, what you're here to do, what you're here to represent. And so going back to projections and highlighting this is so important, because we often are moving through the world, people pissing us off left and right. And what's actually driving is the projection, not your true self. So if there is anywhere in your life where you're finding yourself frustrated, you're finding yourself like things aren't clicking, you're finding that your next level is knocking and you can't seem to answer the door, it's because projections are leading the way. And so the first thing I want to bring your attention to is, where are you projecting into situations and people that which you're not comfortable with in yourself, And that which is essentially the projection like at play. And let me explain that a little bit more is there's really two ways we see this show up. We see it show up where we are projecting onto other people and then we're blaming the person for the thing that we're projecting that we're not comfortable about ourselves. Let me explain. So let's say there's a decision that you want to make within your team, and there's a key employee or team member that for whatever reason, you just feel like they're blocking you. They're like, I can't get this through to this person. I can't get them to understand where I'm coming from. You are projecting. In other words, you are not comfortable with what it is that you actually want, desire, want to deploy. And so you're making it about the other person as to why you can't launch what you want to launch. And what happens is over time, that relationship, that person gets the brunt of your projection, creating dysfunction, dysregulation in you as the leader and them as your key person, employee, or the responsible party to deploy this part of your vision coming to life. And so the interesting thing about projections is that they most often show up for us in the ways that we need to grow. And so I was working with a client in the last week where we were talking about, her desire and voicing and vocalizing her desire and feeling like she couldn't get it across. And what we really discovered was that it wasn't so much about the other party, but what it was really about was her feeling comfortable taking the stand for what she wanted. And as women, I think that's how it shows up the most, is that we're so afraid of how powerful we are. There's probably an element for you where you are so powerful that it's a little bit scary leaning all the way into that. It's easy to make it about something else, make it about someone else as to why you didn't get what you wanted or why you didn't launch that dream or figure that out, or why there's this struggle in the process of realizing the vision and the dream. Because the truth is that if we were all of ourselves, if you were all of you and there weren't projections involved, there's no one to blame. It's all you. You have to feel safe in your power, and you have to take all the masks off. You have to stop making it about these facades, these excuses, these reasons. And you have to take radical ownership in a way that can feel really overwhelming because it's such an activation of your power. It's such an ownership of your power, and it's such a declaration to what you stand for. And here's the thing is we don't give enough credit to the fact that it wasn't that long ago that we were drastically oppressed as women, that there were consequences of life and death as women because we stood for what we wanted. So over time, we've adopted really a defense mechanism in this world of projecting and blaming and giving our power away to outside forces as a means to self-soothe and self-protect on the way to self-realization. But the truth is, and the reality is that that bag is expired and it is time to put it down. Because in the world of projections, like I said, these two dynamics of it's parts of you that you've rejected or you don't like, or it's parts of you feel like you don't have and maybe you need to cultivate. And so it's easier to go outside. I was reflecting on this actually over the weekend in the category of this idea around imposter syndrome. And I think imposter syndrome and projections are really interesting as they go hand in hand. And when I was reflecting on it, and they actually shared this on social, what I was reflecting on is this idea of imposter syndrome, right? It's truly real in that if you feel like you're an imposter, it is because you are being one. You are not claiming your power. You are not being the truth of who you are. You're not expressing yourself completely. And so, of course, you feel like an imposter because you're not being all of you. And I think that that connection is really important to say, you know what? No wonder I feel like I don't fit in, or no wonder I feel like I have to go out of my way to prove myself, or like I'm not enough to be in this room or at this table, or whatever might be going on. If you resonate with ever feeling like you've been an imposter, if you look in those instances when you felt like that, you felt like you had to change who you are to be accepted by the external world, to be accepted by that group or networking community that you wanted to be a part of. And in that, imposter syndrome arises because you're saying, I need to be different than I am to fit in. In other words, external forces are guiding how I'm showing up. And that ties totally into projections, because if I am projecting onto you, there is an element of I don't have to fully own where I stand. And the encouragement and message of this episode for you today is your power resides in where you draw that line, baby. Your power resides in where you say, I no longer need to blame this person or this situation or this thing that's not working outside of me. I'm going to be so into precision and so committed into who I'm being and where I'm blaming externally or excusing myself externally, and really start to investigate what part of me is ready to rise. What part of me is actually the thing I'm projecting or putting onto other people that's actually a call for me to grow? What part of me is ready to emerge in this next chapter, in this next iteration of myself that I've allowed to be dormant while I project externally? And so when you think about projections, I want you to think of projections in this way of where I feel like I'm lacking, where you feel like you're missing the mark, where you find yourself looking to others for advice, or where you are hiring mentors or coaches to get insight and it just never feels like you get what you need. I want to invite you to see, is this a projection? Am I projecting that I'm lacking this? So I search for it externally when actually it's in me, eager, ready, and excited to come out into the world and to be born. Are you a woman leader that is looking for more fulfillment, freedom, and purpose? Are you a successful woman leader that has created massive external success, but feel that there is this next level of what you're supposed to do? If either of those describe you, join us for SoulCharge's pop-up event, a live 2-hour event called Liberation. It's hosted the last week of every month at our headquarters in Boise. It's a 2-hour event that will be more valuable than the last event that you paid for, and it is free. We're going to dive into a powerful framework that will leave you with a fresh perspective, a clear path forward, and the conviction that you've been missing. Click the link in the podcast show notes for more information and how to register. We look forward to seeing you there. There was an associate that I worked with, and one of the things that I noticed in this person was this constant seeking to align with someone else in work. And what they discovered in the process was that they were actually rejecting, suppressing the part of themselves that wanted to lead a movement themselves. And the projection was this person knows more than me, or I need to align with someone else that has that bigger vision and that bigger dream, and then I'll be successful. When actually, as soon as that person dropped that projection, stopped making it about everyone else outside, power arose. Embodiment of their power came. And that's what this is all about, is projections are truly the thief of your growth. It is the secret, the hidden power leak, as I've titled this podcast episode, because it blocks you from what's ready to emerge. And so I'll leave you with this reflection exercise. Where are you blaming externally? Can you bring that back to you and ask yourself, where am I ready to take more ownership on this topic? Where am I ready to grow? And can I see that where I've been projecting or blaming externally is actually a part of myself that I've been rejecting internally? Where we blame externally, we are rejecting internally. Your ability to see this is absolutely the destination for your next level. It absolutely is the next step in your treasure hunt, in your treasure map of what's unfolding to your next level. Because where we are projecting, we are power leaking. And when we can come in to see where we're doing that, take our power back, our true embodiment of our personal power can arise. Are you loving SoulCharge? If so, hit the subscribe button, leave a review, and share an episode. We want to bring powerful content to women leaders each week so that women can be unleashed to create the results that they want now. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.